Hey guys, Andy back here from Mediocre Hobbies, delivering more Skaventide content for you guys. I don't think there's any other creator out there who has given you more content on Skaventide than me. Correct me in the comments if you think that is not true. I've currently done 12 painting schemes so far from the box set, and I'm about to add my 13th here today. So far we have done one of the beautiful flying Stormcast with the prosecutors, and then we've done 4 separate Liberator paint schemes. So that's 5 different Stormcast paint schemes available. We have done 6 different clan paint schemes from the clan rats. We have done a beautiful rat ogre, and today we are going to finally tackle the Clawlord on Gnaw-beast, the boss of the Skaven army. Pretty much my favorite miniature from this box set. When this box set was first revealed, that was the standout piece for me. I am in love with it. So I'm gonna hopefully tackle that here today and show you guys how to paint it in a really easy and accessible way. I know a lot of people now who are after this box set finally have it in their hands. They spent the last couple of days putting it together, and I really do hope that these videos are helping you guys alleviate some of your fears and get some of these models painted up. If that is the case, please do let me know down in the comments below. And if there's any other painting schemes or techniques or anything else you want to see from this particular box set, please do let me know. I know for a bare minimum, I'm going to do the Cannon as a video, and I'm going to do a Jezzail as a video as well, because I think those 2 miniatures can be slightly intimidating as well. So they will come over the next kind of week or so. You'll get them at some stage. So hopefully you're excited for that. Before I get into this video though, I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody that supports me here on the channel. We've just recently smashed past the 50,000 subscriber marks. In the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for that. It means the world to me. Halfway to a silver play button, which has been one of my lifelong ambitions for many years. Before I even started the YouTube channel, it was always in the back of my mind as something that I would like to have. So if you guys would like to continue supporting me, make sure you do the standard things like, comment, and subscribe on the videos that you watch. If you're interested in getting extra content, check out the Patreon linked down below in the description. And then obviously we have affiliate links for things like Element Games, which means whenever you're buying stuff Element Games, use my code. You pay absolutely not a penny more, but I get a nice little kickback. So it's a nice little cherry on top. All right, guys, without further ado, let's dive in and get this Clawlord painted up. So here we have our Claw leader on his Gnaw-beast. As you can see, it is a beautiful sculpt. I have left the rider off the beast to make it easier to paint. As you can see, I just super glued a little bit of sprue to one of my painting stands and then super glued the rider to the front of that to make it easy to hold and paint. Obviously, I sprayed the miniatures black and then gave them a nice heavy dusting of grey seer, and that is where I like to start most of my painting videos from. And then I like to go through the process of adding contrasts for all of the base coats apart from the metallics, giving the model a shade, a wash, and then obviously building up the colors then from there. So that's what we're going to do in this video, make it as simple and as easy as possible. So we are going to start with none other than Guilliman Flesh, and we're going to paint this all across the skin areas shown on the Gnaw-beast. Now, we're going to do it on the Skaven Clawlord as well, on his face, his hands, tail, those kind of things. There's a couple of examples of this Gnaw-beast, and it's kind of depends which way you look at it, how much of the model is actually fur and how much of it is actually skin. So you will see other examples out there where they have a larger quantity of skin than the one that I'm doing, and you can do that as much as you want. You follow the same steps that I'm showing you in this, so you would just be Guilliman Flesh, and you would put that on more of the miniature. But as for me, I kind of like the idea that this thing was a smaller creature, and it has kind of grown and swelled and stretched and split its own skin. And that's where the kind of patches of skin are coming from. But the majority of it is still a giant rat, so he's going to have lots of fur. I'm going to go for a grey rat for this guy. I want him to be quite subdued in his fur color, as we're going to go for Clan Verminus, which is red armor, red cloth, nice, bright, vibrant. So I don't think I need the beast to be like screaming loads of colors at me either. I want the guy on top to be the main focus and the head of the Gnaw-beast. So Basilicam Grey works a treat as a base coat for that, and applying it to all those other bits of the beast that I haven't done in the skin color. I've also decided to make it go for the fur that's on the Clawlord as well. I've seen many examples in many books that when a leader or a boss goes to a molder pit to pick out a beast, whether that be a rat ogre bodyguard or a mount, they see it as a good omen and good fortune if the colors match himself. So they usually will pick through the litters until they find one that kind of matches them. That's why he'll have the same color. Lord Thanquil often will pick out a rat ogre that is albino, white furred and red eyes, which match himself to be his bodyguard. So I want to go for the same kind of aesthetic with this guy. Okay, like I said, this guy's going to be lots of red. But I want obviously the armor and the cloth to be very distinctive. So we are going to go for the Flesh Tears red contrast for the cloth, because that's going to be the darker red. And then we're going to go for the Blood Angels red contrast, and we're going to apply this all over the armor panels. Now, like I said, this guy's a claw leader. He is high ranking. He is leading pretty much the entire Skaven force, unless they bring out some gnarly special character or something like that. But for me right now, he's going to be the leader of the force. He's got quite a lot of armor on him, so chest piece, he's got some on his shins and his forearms, up and down his back. Even his mount has got some armored collar on it. So I'm going to paint that to match in with the Warlord as well. Yeah, he's got a little matching set of armor with his beastie. Maybe he's quite fond of this creature. It has served him for many, many campaigns and battles, which for a Skaven is usually one. Rattling Grime was then brought in. It just seemed weird not to use Rattling Grime for a Skaven miniature. So we did this for all of the kind of dark old split wood that has fallen down and is sinking into the warpstone pools of the base. And I'm obviously going to use this as the base coat for any other brown parts that are kind of on the miniature. So the straps that hold his saddle on and the straps around his waist. I'm also going to go for the handle of his halberd. His big warpstone halberd, we're going to go for some Rattling Grime on that too. We're going to do the wraps as well. I'm just going to keep it the same color. And like I said, I don't want to scream with extra colors that I don't think are needed. But you could do the wrap on the staff a different color if you so please. That's up to you. Okay, as we can see, those reds are still quite close together. When we get to the layering stage, we will pull them in different directions. I promise you they will look quite different by the end. Lead Belcher was then introduced, and basically all the metallic parts were done with Lead Belcher. Sometimes when I'm doing stuff like this, where it's kind of an amalgamation of like brasses and silvers, for instance, his pistol. Let's do a pistol as the example. I'm going to cover that entire thing with silver. And then when I get to the brass stage, then I'm going to pick out parts of the miniature of the pistol that I want to be brass, the ringlets, the like gas casing and stuff like that. I just find it easier. It means there's not going to be any gaps or any the undercoat showing through or anything like that. So don't worry, get all the silver in as much as you can, and then you can choose to add in what brass or copper or whatever you want yourself. As you can see, we did the metalwork going up the fallen beam as well, but there is a stylized rat symbol, so we're going to do that in, like I said, the brass. We're going to go for Balthazar Gold, a nice coppery brass color. It's a great base coat for any coppers. And we're going to paint in, like I said, that Skaven kind of rat motif on the broken down bit of wood. We're going to paint that in the brass. And then obviously we're going to go through the Skaven miniature himself, the Clawlord, and pick out different kind of bits that we think should be this color. Skaven are renowned for having brass as their color for a lot of their metallics, a lot of their workings and stuff like that. So you want to try and introduce that as much as you can into the miniature where it is appropriate. So like I said, I'm going to be doing a bunch on his pistol, but I actually went the extra mile and decided to do his big trophy rack that goes up over his back. I'm going to do that in that brass color as well. And obviously the extra bit of the halberd that holds the warpstone blade in place, I'm going to do that in brass as well. So these are just small details, but like I said, they will help to break up the level of metallics that exist on this miniature. Especially the trophy rack. That was going to be red, but I think if at that point we would be in the dangerous, too much red category of painting the miniature. So I'm glad I did decide to go for the brass bit. Definitely didn't grab the wrong paint there, don't mind that. Skeleton Horde was then grabbed for, well, guess it, the skeleton parts. So obviously there's some skulls on the trophy rack. He has also got some horns protruding from the top of his head as well. We're going to do those in Skeleton Horde. And then his fingernails and his claws, and the Gnaw-beast's fingernail, claws, teeth, all those areas are going to get hit with the Skeleton Horde base coat. Anything that you think should be kind of like bone. I know nails aren't bone, but claws are kind of bone. I don't know. It works. Don't panic. Okay, Reikland Flesh Shade is then the color of choice, the shade of choice that I'm going to apply to the entire miniature. You guys may think that I'm insane, but I've often painted this way. In fact, I majority of the time paint this way, in that I do all the base coats and then I do a single solitary shade over the top of the entire thing, and it does work. It looks great. The only thing that I'm going to avoid with the shade is the bits that are going to get that warpstone green color. So the warpstone blade and then the pool in the bottom of his base. We're going to leave those alone from the shade. I know we're still in the ugly stage. Please bear with me. Stick with me to the end of the video. I promise the model will look pretty nice at the end of it. Like, at the end of this video, I tell myself how proud I am of the piece. So if you're looking at this model now being like, man, this guy is ruining a nice model, wait till the end. And if you still think it looks awful, then you can put it in the comments. Break my little heart. Okay, while the shade was drying, I did get all the basing done on him, apart from the warpstone pool. The rat dried, and as you can see, it's a really great point to begin layering from. All the colors are in place, there's nice shading everywhere. Time to bump up that color. So the first thing we're going to do is Cadian flesh tone, and we're going to start building up all that skin tone. This is the, I think, one of the most intricate parts of painting the Skaven is the skin. Because they have such a kind of like gnarly amount of skin. It's all creases and crevices, and it's protruding through fur everywhere. It's definitely one of those like key aesthetical designs for them. And I love painting it. I like taking my time. I like trying to do a really good job, but I know when people look at the miniature, it's going to be one of those defining bits that kind of jumps out at you. People are going to be staring at. So I think if you do put the extra time in anywhere in this miniature, for me, it's going to be the red armor and the skin. Everything else is kind of secondary. It doesn't really matter too much. You're not going to be too focused on it. If you get those two things right, I think the model's going to look fantastic. Obviously going through the tail, the little ringlets of the tail. I don't know how to say what a rat's tail is like, but making sure that you don't fill in the little gaps in between will make all the difference. And following through exactly the same tones on the Clawlord's face as the Gnaw-beast's face. Say that fast 10 times. Now, I did want to add a little bit of warmth back into the skin. You guys who have watched me painting skin over the last couple of months will have noticed that I keep referring to this trick where I grab some Berserker Bloodshade and I actually use it from my wet palette, so it's thinned down a little bit, and I give that a light kind of glaze over the skin. It just adds a little bit of warmth back into a little bit of redness. Everything else is kind of cold, brown fur, the red armor. I know red armor is not cold, but you know what I mean. They're like flatter tones. And I didn't want the skin to look like dead. I wanted it to look nice. So after we applied the Berserker Bloodshade, the thin down Berserker Bloodshade to the skin, then we're going to go in and add the final highlight to the skin, which is of course going to be the Kislev flesh. And this is going to be applied exactly like the Cadian flesh tone was, that like layering stage, but just less. All you're looking for is a little bit of touch highlight. You can see how fast I'm going to move here. Very sharp lines on the very highest points. We'll just, yeah, make that skin pop, make it look awesome. And I think it does. I think even at this stage where, you know, we're just about to be done with the skin, but the rest of the model is still looking pretty rough. I can see the potential. I think that's another really important thing to do. There's certain times where you just need to get one part of the model looking kind of the way you envision it in your head, which will then push you forward to completing the piece. I'm also having a real problem now because when I first saw these miniatures, I hadn't really thought about playing lots of Age of Sigmar. I was more excited about getting them sorted for Warhammer the Old World. Now, Skaven and Warhammer the Old World are perhaps the worst faction, and they say they're not going to be doing any updates or any models or anything like that. So I don't know whether investing a lot of time in getting a Skaven army up and running is a good idea, or whether playing these guys for 4th edition Age of Sigmar is actually the way to go, considering that these are going to be the poster bad guy army for the next 3 years for the 4th edition of Age of Sigmar. So they're just going to get tons and tons of releases, which some of those releases aren't going to fit into the old world, which is kind of upsetting. Whereas if I do it for Age of Sigmar, I'm just going to have this glorious army. So a little bit of struggling back and forth, but we shall see what happens. Skaven Blight Dinge is the dark gray color I decided to choose to layer up the fur. I don't know why that color seemed like the right choice. Maybe it had something to do with the name, who knows. And as you can see, I'm just going through and layering up all of that brown fur. We still want it to look kind of mangy and dark. We don't need to go crazy. Like I said, the skin and the armor are the two key focal points. So jumping to the armor color, the first thing we're going to go for is Mephiston red on all of the armor. And as you can see, we're going to go for kind of a scratchy highlight and layering job. Working fast, adding the color to kind of the highest points and being rough. And of course, across the armor on the rat as well. Like these are like nice segmented armor plates, very kind of like oriental style, like a samurai-ish style. I want to make sure that those lines are kept really nice because the design is so cool. I love it. And it's very quick to do. Every stage should be quick to do. If you guys like this, you want to follow it along, like you will sit down for an evening. I'd say 2 evenings, because obviously you're going to get the model base coated and washed and the basing material put on, and then you might leave it and then come back the next evening. So you gave this piece, 3 hours a night for 2 nights, you'll have it painted, and you have the general of your Skaven army fully painted, which I think is really cool. As you can see, we then jumped up to our next highlight, which is Evil Sun's Scarlet. And we're going in with the final, not the final highlight, because we're going to do a little bit of chipping with silver, but the last color of the red armor to make it scream and pop. The little silver chipping detail that we do in a minute is actually really nice as well. It really helps finish off that armor. Like, obviously this guy is very proud of his red coloring, but he's on campaign. He doesn't really know how to maintain his equipment to the highest standards. So he's going to be kind of chipped and scuffed and battered almost. I think is really cool, and that's going to reflect in adding those kind of silver scratch highlights to it in a minute. But it's starting to look good. You can see the red armor and the red cloth is very much starting to look like 2 different colors. To further emphasize this, we're going to run over to corn red and use this as the layering color for the fur and fabric. Oh, sorry, not the fur, just the fabric. Painting too much Clan Vulcan. I think the fur needs to be red. And as you can see, I'm going in with a nice layer job. I'm not going to do anything after this. I mean, I don't want to make it bright. The armor is bright. I feel like if I jumped up with a 3rd color for the cloth, it's going to pull it up too bright, and it's going to become another primary focus. And it's going to, those 2 reds are going to blend in together a bit too much, and that's not what we want. So everything is really starting to come together now. Corvus Black was introduced, and that was for, once again, all those kind of strappy bits, any of the reins bits. It's painted around the collar holding on that armor and all those like mini armor panels. We wanted to keep it nice and dark, but we definitely wanted to seem like a black leather strap, not just like hammered into the poor thing's hide. And of course, the belt around the waist of the Clawlord himself got done with that as well. Now, moving in with the silver, here's where I'm talking about adding those scratchy highlights. We're going to add them roughly around the edges, kind of nuts and bolts. Anywhere that would, if this thing was passing next to a kind of a wall or squeezing its way between formations in fighting, what bits of his armor are going to hit and get a little bit scratched. Obviously the handle where the Clawlord with his armored or mailed foot or his claws are going to be holding on to is going to have a few scratches. And as you can see, it's really fast, just along the edges. And when it gets to brassy bits, same thing again. We're just going to add a couple of scratchy highlights to it, push it more towards that brass tone, which is super quick. I don't know how many times I've said super quick in this video, but I think that should emphasize the fact that this is a speed painting guide. And here I am working on the actual armor of the guy as well. So I'm going a little bit slower because I want to make sure this looks right. There is like sculpted on nicks in the armor, so it's only right that you actually feed the silver into those bits as well. It's going to make the most sense. Jumping over to Ushapti Bone, and this is going to be painted onto all of the skulls, claws, horns, anything that you did the skeleton horde base coat to. And as you can see, I'm going for a nice kind of translucent coat on this. I don't want to like a cartoon skull. I want it to look a little textured, have some of that base coat and shade showing through the color. And with the claws and horns, you just want to make sure there's visible lines between the claws and between the teeth to make those parts stand out really well. Warp Lightning was then used as a single coat across the swirling pool of stuff on the base. Like I said, because we did the black and the grey seer, it's already a really nice contrast base, so you can literally just get a whole load of Warp Lightning and feed it in. And it's going to make the kind of swirls at the top be brighter, and then in the dark reset it's going to be darker, and it's going to look awesome. Like, look at this for one solid coat of Warp Lightning across the Warp Lightning blade. Look what it does. It's so good. I mean, you could spend hours like layering it up with moot green and adding in little spectral highlights everywhere. Or you could just throw a contrast on it and just, get to work on the 80 or so clan rats you have to paint for this army. Ain't nobody got time for that. Now, I did use Grey Seer to paint back in the eyes to brighten them up and make them nice and pale so that I could go in with the Imperial Fist yellow and give them yellow eyes. I know the rats are traditionally supposed to have red eyes, and I did look it up, and the one they painted online was red eyes, but I thought there's enough red on this miniature right now, so I decided to just give him kind of beady yellow eyes. I grabbed a little bit of Ard Coat and applied that across the Warpstone blade just to make it shine a little bit. I think the Warpstone blade looks really good. For 2 coats of paint, people, well, 1 coat of paint and a coat of varnish, we're going to get an epic warpstone blade. Glue the miniature in place. Have a look around to see if there's any bits that we missed, any extra highlights that are needed, or any extra scratches, or just any scuff work that happened while you're mauling this miniature, while you're painting it up. Once you are satisfied with that, I move across and I glue on a couple little bits of grass tufts. And that's it. We have a finished Clawlord on Gnaw-beast. Still making sure I'm not saying that wrong. I love him. I think he's a beast of a character. Took a couple of still images for you guys so you can see what he might actually look like on a tabletop. Some dark, moody lighting to get this guy, you know, tunnel fighter is what he's mostly going to look like. But I also took some nice pictures of him on a white background so you guys can actually see some of the details, maybe. I don't know. But like I said, it's the biggest piece you get in the Vermintide box set. I'm very happy, or Skaventide box set. So I'm very happy to have him out of the way. Cannon or Giselle next, not 100% sure which one. I think the cannon is going to be quite a lot of work, so I might do an easy Giselle next and then save the cannon for the week after. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Guys, we have a finished Clawlord on Gnaw-beast, and I must say I'm really proud of this. I think he turned out awesome. I was having a little bit of a existential crisis at the beginning, trying to figure out what clan I was going to go for with him. And I think I've decided that for a bunch of the armies for Age of Sigmar now, I'm just going to start doing kind of different clans for different things as kind of befits the lore. So for instance, this guy's the boss. So he's going to be the most warlike of the Skaven, therefore he's going to be Clan Verminus. So I'm going to paint him like that. So, you know what I mean? The cannon and the Giselles will get painted like Skyer. The rat ogres will get painted like Molder, but all the other you know, that kind of way. I think that'd be the coolest way to do it. So that's what I'm going to do, I think. Which means you're going to see a lot of more interesting paint schemes than just a flat same color across an entire army. If you think that's a good idea, let me know. If you don't, let me know. Hopefully you've learned a little something about painting this beastie up. I know when you look at the picture of him at first, like I said at the beginning of this video, he can seem quite intimidating, but hopefully this video has alleviated some of those fears and you're more comfortable getting stuck in and painting him up yourself. Okay guys, with that said, I think I'm finished with this particular video. Like I said, let me know which model you want to see next on the channel from the Skaventide box set, or any other of the new Age of Sigmar 4th edition stuff that you want to see. Let me know. Well, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.